Welcome to today's episode of me reviewing highlights. I'm hoping we wrap up early today, but our past few episodes they have gone even up to 18 minutes. We are kind of reaching 20, but I would really like to limit, especially today. It's busy day, and I'm already doing this second time. There was a power cut anyway, thunderstorm. It was a flash thunderstorm. So let's not spend any more time. Let's get started with the highlights. With the first one being at your best. Time doesn't grow, it won't expand, which is why time management brings you diminishing returns. This is a different way of saying that, the standard cliche that we have about everybody gets 24 hours in the day. And that's really all this is. So everybody gets 24 hours. You can't you don't get any more, you don't get any less. So it's not really time management that you want, it's priority management. And it's a very well understood fact now, which is why I don't really feel I should spend any more time talking about this. It's quite common, and you must have heard this already so many times that really, whatever we say time management, it's really nothing. You can't manage time. It's only your priorities that you can manage. And that's where this book goes. This book is all about priorities, how you focus on yourself. And of course, there's a lot of discussion about Pareto principle and all of that, but it all feels tangential right now. So I'm going to go ahead. Second one is drive. The opposite of autonomy is control. And since they sit at different poles of the behavioral compass, they point us towards different destinations. Control leads to compliance, autonomy leads to engagement. And this distinction leads to the second element of type I behavior, mastery. The desire to get better and better at something that matters. So there are really two things over here. The first thing is pretty straightforward, that the opposite of autonomy is control. And if you want different outcomes, you have to pick what, the approach that you want to use to get there. So if you pick autonomy, what you get is engagement. Like it says, autonomy leads to engagement. But if you pick control, you get compliance. And you have to decide what is it that you want. And before you think that, okay, you're getting best of the both worlds, it's not really that, because in aiming for compliance, you're really going to sacrifice engagement. And that might lead to, worse problems. It could lead to kind of like a lack of morale. The morale could disappear with too much control. People don't identify themselves with the work that they're doing. They're just doing it because they have to comply to something. And autonomy leads to engagement. And with engagement, you do still get a form of compliance. It may not be that, okay, you as a commander tell something and it's done. It may not be exactly in that way. You need to generate buy-in. That's really what the management looks like today. And not just in organizations traditionally associated with that command and control structure. Military, that's the best example that comes to mind, because military always has this impression that everything is about command and control. There is a commander who is going to lead the troops in battle wherever, and they have to do exactly as they're told. But my own learning over a couple of books tells me otherwise, that it's really there's no such control. There are multiple books around this. There is Extreme Ownership, which we have talked about several times. There is another wonderful book by David Marquez. What is the name? I'll put it in the show notes if I don't remember the name. But it's a very good book, and it's all about how you use intent to drive leadership. Anyway, coming back to this is the distinction. The distinction between creating compliance through control or engagement through autonomy, and that leads you to the second element of type I behavior, which I think is intrinsic behavior. I'm kind of forgetting that a little bit, and that's mastery. The other two elements are mastery. Mastery is second one, but the other two are purpose and I'm forgetting the third one. Was it autonomy? So it leads us to mastery. So mastery follows engagement. You don't get to mastery by compliance alone. People are not motivated to learn anything. The desire to get better and better. The word is right over there. The desire. With excessive control, with compliance, there is no desire left. It's just compliance. So let's move on to the leader's greatest return. Why is it so important to touch a heart before you ask for a hand? Because people don't automatically commit to you and follow you when they understand you. They commit to you and follow when they feel understood. And I think that's a wonderful way of putting it over here. They commit to you and follow when they feel understood. Feel understood. There are two keywords over here. That first of all, that they're understood, and they have to feel understood. It's not just that they are understood. If you can be confident that you privately understand them, great, but that's not enough. They have to feel understood. So you have to tell them. You have to, for example, recognize them. You have to show that you care about them. That's where leadership begins, with that care, with that vulnerability. And um, and like one common tactic is active listening, for example. Not just passive listening, that you're hearing what they have to say, but active listening, that they know that you're listening to them. So that is when they feel understood, and that is when you touch a heart. And with that, you can then ask for a hand. That is where leadership begins, once you have touched their heart. Moving on, team topologies. By aiming to reduce cognitive load in dev teams, a good platform helps dev teams focus on the germane, differentiating aspects of a problem, increasing personal and team level flow, and enabling the whole team to be more effective. As Kenichi Shibata of global publishing company Condé Nast International says, the most important part of the platform is that it is built for developers. I think it is straightforward. Maybe for some of the terms that need maybe like a refresher, cognitive load refers to the load that developers deal with on a day-to-day basis. When that affect the cognition. That kind of affect every. Like the task that that they need to do, everything that affects it is the cognitive load on them. So, for example, if they need to fix a bug, the cognitive load could include setting up the system on the local machines to fix the bug, for example, or testing it, or getting the test to work in an automated test environment, like maybe a CI environment, and then readying it for continuous deployment. So development. So all of these things are they are kind of they're additional load on the developer. The bug fix itself may be very simple, but then everything around it is very heavy. And that is what we need to reduce. As a platform team, what we need to reduce is the cognitive load on dev teams. So they focus on the differentiating aspects of a problem, the bug that they need to fix. They can focus on that, and they can completely stop worrying about things like setting up local development. It just works. They don't have to worry about it. Yes, they have to be trained for that. I'm not saying that they magically know it. They have to be trained for that, but then it just works. Those kind of details are abstracted away, not hidden away. They're just abstracted away. Anyway, it's a very complicated topic. I guess I can just I'll probably just keep going down in rabbit holes. So I'll move on. Codependent no more. Maybe we have lived with people and through events that we were out of control. Maybe obsessing and controlling is the way we kept things in balance, or temporarily kept things from getting worse. And then we just kept on doing it. Maybe we are afraid to let go, because when we let go in the past, terrible, hurtful things happen. I think this pretty much says everything. I don't really need to add on to this. It's referring to I think what's missing over here is the context. It's referring to how we get to codependency. And codependency refers to the behavior people have where they become dependent on other person's behavior, abnormal behavior usually. Things like alcoholism, for example, or addiction. So they get dependent on such behavior. Like, for example, there is a very wonderful definition of this codependency as per the author in this book, but I'm not remembering it, and that's not in the highlight today. So yeah, but in a sense, codependency is kind of being dependent, letting somebody else's behavior drive our behavior, and it's very easy to fall into it. And these are the different explanations that could lead to it. Like everything that we have lived through in the past, and the things that we might have done, and how they might have backfired, and so on. So let's move on to choose possibility. Possibility and power are abundant, not scarce. When we choose possibility consistently, we don't need others to make us powerful. We generate power for ourselves. Again, nothing to say over here. this book is all about possibility. So yeah, yeah, nothing to say over here. Kill it with fire. Whenever you can avoid having people, whenever you can avoid having people argue about principles, philosophies, and other generalities of good engineering versus bad engineering, take advantage of it. So it kind of relates to the previous point we saw in team topologies, where we kind of abstract away the things that are not differentiating anyway. Um, it's it's very similar to that. So as an organization, it is very useful to have, not just have, but to document a fixed set of principles and philosophies and other generalities of good engineering. In fact, as it happens, and this is something that I'm working on currently in my organization, having a handbook of engineering where we discuss about principles and other such qualities. So when it is documented, it is not the subject of debate for every problem that you need to solve. So whenever we get to a problem that needs solving, any challenge, uh, that's not when we start talking about, okay, what are the principles or what are the philosophies that we approach. They're all documented somewhere. They're like values. They're always used in making decisions, engineering decisions in this case. And yeah, so that's what this highlight covers. When we should aim for that behavior. Leader's greatest return. Again, nothing erases self doubt quicker than when a person of influence speaks belief into your life. No wonder Abraham Lincoln said, I'm a success today because I had a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let him down. I think it's a wonderful highlight, but yeah, I don't really need to talk more about this, right? It's belief of others that drive us to excel. Um, yeah, that gets over our own self doubt. So this is a long one. Getting things done. If you neglect this categorization and allow things of different meanings into the same visual or mental grouping, you will tend to go psychologically numb to the contents. If you put reference material in the same pile as things you still want to read, for example, you'll go unconscious to the stack. If you put items on your next actions list that really need to go on the calendar because they have to occur on specific days, then you won't trust your calendar and you'll continually have to reassess your action lists. If you have projects that you're not going to be doing anything about for some time, they must go on your someday maybe list so you can relate to the projects list with the rigorous action generating focus it needs. So the framework of getting things done has different buckets. When you process items, you have an inbox, and from the inbox, when you process items, it can go into different things. So depending on is it actionable or not, it goes to the next step in the flow chart, and if it is actionable, also, can you do something about it right now? So if you can do it within 2 minutes, do it right now. No need to put it anywhere. But if you can't, you have to decide to delegate or defer it. And so there are a lot of these buckets. And again, if it's non-actionable, there are three other buckets over there. So the point is that if you don't have all of these buckets, if you kind of like put everything in the same bucket, so to speak, we go psychologically numb, to use the words in the highlight, when we want to deal with this. So when everything comes together again, it's like we are no better um, than having everything scattered in the first place. So when we, like the example says, when we want to, for example, work on just reviewing items, we have a bucket for just reviewing stuff. When we want to take action on and follow up on what we have delegated, so we have a bucket for just things that have been delegated. So that's the point of this really rather long highlight. Another one, 7.5 lessons about the brain. Here's how abstraction works. As your brain compresses data from all your senses and integrates them into a cohesive whole, an activity that we previously called sensory integration. Each time one of your neurons compresses its inputs to make a summary, that multisensory summary is an abstraction of the inputs. At the front of your brain, the largest, most highly connected neurons produce the most abstract multisensory summaries. That's why you can view dissimilar objects like flowers and gold watches as similar, and view an identical cup of wine as either celebratory or sacred. This is talking about abstraction, like, in case it was not clear, it was pretty clear. So it's talking about how brain deals with abstraction. And if you want to take a minute, read it again. I know I was quite quick in reading this. Pause and you can read this text right now. So I'll not go into how brain really handles this on the neuron level. I'm not an expert in that, and it's all what's the word, neuroscience. But I'll just explain the context of the last Last item over here. I think I've lost my camera. Yep. So I just explained the last item over here. Okay, forget the camera for now. So the in the last sentence, the author is talking about viewing dissimilar objects like flowers and gold watches. They're similar. They're similar because they're both gifts. Uh, in the context of the book, like, so if you look at flowers and gold watches, they're both used for gifting, and in that context they're similar. Whereas identical cup of wine as either celebrity or sacred, that differentiation is still there. When are you going to drink that cup of wine, and under what circumstances? And for the rest of it, like I said, it's already covered. And that's really the end of it, which means that okay, the camera kind of gave up in time. But yeah, learning for the next day. I'm just going to let this be for now. It's like just at the end of the video. And thank you everyone for watching. Bye.